What's going on, everybody? Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. I hope you got your cake tonight. Um, but yeah, hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to be doing a Night of the Living Dead watch along um, here for Father's Day to celebrate one of the best fathers. I'm having a Iron City beer that I was able to grab and bring home from Pittsburgh. Celebrating one of the best fathers in the Romero universe, Mr. Harry Cooper. Huge dick, but all in all, he was trying to do the right thing. So yes, I'm in a different setup here. Going to be watching the movie here on the big screen. Um, I'm going to be watching. There's a billion different releases of Night of the Living Dead, from VHS to Laserdisc to DVD to Blu-ray. But I'll be watching the brand new 4K Criterion release that they just put out. What was it? 4 or 5 months ago, something like that, maybe a little longer than that. But I plan on watching that one tonight, just because I actually haven't watched the 4K version that Criterion just put out. So been looking forward to watching that for the first time. Just haven't, because it's funny, the actual so Criterion did a Blu-ray release of that year or two ago, and then just re-released the 4K version not too long ago. So I picked up the 4K version during one of those Barnes and Noble half off Criterion sales. Picked up that and a bunch of other stuff at the same time. But actually haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet. So plan on doing that tonight. Haven't actually watched it. Well, this is probably the last time I've watched Night of the Living Dead. I've seen Night of the Living Dead over 100 times at this point. But any chance, that's the beautiful thing about 4K Blu-ray. It almost gives you a chance to watch it again for the first time. Yeah, the sound quality is a little better, the picture quality is a little better, the darker spots in the film are a little lighter. You can see more. There's more to discover. So it's really like kind of watching these movies, like, the Dawn of the Dead 4K, or especially that full frame release of Dawn of the Dead that was on the Italian zombie release, that little box set that they put out years ago. There's a full frame version. It shows you more of the frame, so you can actually see more. That's the fun part about these films. Even though you've watched them 50, 100, 200, 500 times, or however, whatever it is. I couldn't tell you how many times I've watched Dawn of the Dead at this point. But one of the best parts about all these new releases is that it is kind of an opportunity to watch it again for the first time. So I'm going to be doing that. Going to be watching that. Also got a little tidbit of something here I saw earlier today on the official George A. Romero Night of the Living Dead fan page on Facebook, that Mr. John Bulow, I believe that's how it's pronounced. Something he posted earlier today I thought was really, really cool. It's the kind of minutia that I love and eat up. When fans do this kind of stuff, it's one of the reasons why I fell in love with a lot of Romero stuff, because just the passion of the fans, and they look for the little tidbits and then the little minutia of the films, and it just, something about it brings you a little closer to the film and the time period that it was made. So I'm going to do that here in just a second, take a look at it. I appreciate everybody checking out all my Living Dead weekend videos, the shorts, the location shorts that I did, the preview show, the recap show, the everything that took place over that weekend. I appreciate you guys checking that out. Got quite a few views and quite a few reactions to those videos. I do want to say I want to apologize my last video. I noticed this after the fact, after I was listening to it. I did that a lot. I cleared my throat a lot. I was losing my voice by the time I did that recap video. So I apologize if every, couple of minutes or so I'm clearing my voice. It drove me insane listening back to it, because I'll listen back to it, make sure that, because a lot of the stuff you can't tell audio-wise, video-wise, connection-wise. A lot of the stuff you can't tell what's going on when you're doing these streams initially. So I'll go back, check it out, make sure there's no issues, and if there are issues, maybe do what I can to fix them. But But yeah, listening back to it, I was just like, God damn, dude, stop with the clearing the throat. You sound like you're about to die. Um, so I was almost to the point of losing my voice at that point. So I appreciate you guys sticking through that and making a mental note to try and not do that as much here in the future. Um, Ryan the Man Moore, what's going on, buddy? Got your 4K copy from Russ Striner. That's pretty cool. Did you meet him at a convention, or do you know him personally outside? Um, yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure. I think him and John Russo both kind of oversaw. Um, the restoration process that Criterion did on this, and I think that um, something about I can't think of the I don't know. I don't know all the exact business parts of their relationship with Criterion, but it does give them some portion of copyright um, coming back to them, because everybody knows the classic story of them not putting the little copyright symbol up in the upper corner of the film at the beginning of the end when they changed the name. Because this is another topic of another video that I plan on doing here in the near future, or alternate Romero titles. And of course, the original title to Night of the Living Dead the actual original title was Night of Anubis, and that originally was changed to Night of the Flesh Eaters, which was the original title. They changed the title, which had the copyright on it, took the copyright off, changed it to Night of the Living Dead, which I think is a much better title. Night of the Living Dead was the right way to go on that. But in doing so, they lost the copyright to that. So I think them working with Criterion on this 4K release and the Blu-ray release, I think it does give them some. I think it's the restoration itself is now under copyright. So anytime you buy the Criterion version or the 4K or the Blu-ray, that I think it is generating some money to John Russo and Russ Striner and Gary Striner and the whole Latent Image crew that worked on the film at the time. So pretty cool. Susie, good to see you in here. Fun video. I appreciate it. And yeah, that's when they lost the copyright on that. Is just something as silly and stupid as that. But I do think there's an argument to be made, and it is kind of an argument that I subscribe to a little bit. Is I think that them losing the copyright and kind of making Night of the Living Dead just kind of public domain kind of helped them in the end, because literally you could show it anywhere at any time for free. You don't have to pay any rights to do it. So I think a movie like Night of the Living Dead, which was so low budget and so regional, it wasn't going to get a huge release in general, even if there was a copyright on it. But I think the fact that there wasn't and it became public domain, not only is it a fantastic, great film, it's one of the most iconic and most important films in horror and independent film history, period, bar none. There's no argument to be made about it. But I think the fact that there wasn't a copyright on it, and I think that the fact that it was public domain did help it become the cultural phenomenon that it became over the years. Because originally when the film came out, it was not a huge success. And then over time, once every theater, from New York to LA and everywhere in between started picking up Night of the Living Dead and showing it in their theaters, showing it in their drive-ins, I think that it just became anywhere you turn. On TV, they would play it on Halloween. I mean, everybody remembers on Halloween 2, they're playing Night of the Living Dead and that. It was just everywhere. Now, yes, and I think it benefited those guys, not in the fact that they were able to financially benefit from it right offhand when the film came out. But I think it benefited them in just the fact that everybody was aware of their work. Everybody was aware of the film, and everybody had seen it. I think I've heard people describe it as the most watched horror film of all time, and at this point, that's probably true. I think there was a little fun fact. I forget who told it to me one time, but it was like for like the period there from the time that Night of the Living Dead came out to it was probably the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, Night of the Living Dead was playing in a theater somewhere in the country every night. I don't know if that's true or what, if that was just bullshit, but it makes sense. I mean, why not? If you have a theater and you want to, do a midnight screening of something, Night of the Living Dead. There's no rights. You know, you don't got to pay for it. So I definitely think that helped everybody who worked on it. It helped them get their name out there. Of course, John Russo over the years wrote the original screenplay for Return of the Living Dead, along with Russ Reiner. I think Russ Reiner was a part of that as well. And of course, George, built, pretty much his entire career off of, the cultural success Night of the Living Dead. I also think it pigeonholed him a little bit too, which I think he was a little resentful of. Yeah, he was the Night of the Living Dead guy. He was the zombie guy. That's what everybody knows him as now. He's the zombie guy. But I just rewatched Season of the Witch earlier today, and which was the film that he made after Night of the Living Dead, and then after There's Always Vanilla. The Season of the Witch was like the first 100% Romero film. Of course, Night of the Living Dead was co-wrote by John Russo. It was kind of a group effort. I think, to me, Night of the Living Dead is a group effort. Yes, George was the big piece in that, but John Russo, Gary Striner, Russ Striner, Carl Hardman, Marilyn Eastman. It was a group effort. Everybody worked together on that one. So to me, that's a group effort. There's Always Vanilla, to me, was a Rudy Ritchie project that Romero just happened to direct. He didn't write it. It wasn't his film per se, but he was mainly there just to direct it. Season of the Witch was the first film that he solely wrote and directed, it was his vision. And to me, I love that film more and more every time I see it. To me, the dialogue is fantastic. Maybe the best dialogue he's ever written in his entire career. So yeah, I highly recommend, if you guys haven't seen Season of the Witch, originally named Jack's Wife. I love the title Jack's Wife. I think that's a better title for it, personally. But yeah, I highly recommend checking that out. But so yeah, I don't know where the hell that diatribe began, but got some comments here. Thanks to Walter Reed for that. Yeah, and of course the Walter Reed organization. It's funny what Walter Reed was kind of the distributor of Night of the Living Dead, but mostly what they were doing at the time was small art film type movies. Like they did John Cassavetes' Faces is the big one that I remember, because I love that. I love Faces. But they were doing that kind of film, and then Night of the Living Dead was kind of a weird outlier. I don't know, that I just thought that was always interesting that they were putting out stuff like Faces and then turn around and put out Night of the Living Dead. Lost the copyright after exchange from Night of Anubis. Yeah, we went over that just a minute ago. Susie, you have yet to see Season of the Witch, and There's Always Vanilla. Well, I don't know if I would like wholeheartedly give my endorsement to those films. If you're more of a horror fan, if you like more of George's horror stuff, if you're a fan of Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and the Creep Show, stuff like that, you may not enjoy Season of the Witch or There's Always Vanilla as much. If you're more of a Romero fan in terms of just his overall body of work, I definitely say check it out. To me, Season of the Witch, I think they tried to put the name Season of the Witch on it. It was originally called Jack's Wife. It's more of a feminist, I don't know, more coming of age feminist film from the early 70s. But it does involve witchcraft, and there are some more horror type scenes. But I wouldn't categorize it strictly as a horror film. And There's Always Vanilla is not a horror film at all. There's nothing. Well, the only thing that sort of resembles horror in There's Always Vanilla is the abortion scene at the end with Judy Ridley. That I thought it was Judy Ridley and George Casana, who's in Night of the Living Dead, of course, plays the sheriff. He, so if that's something sounds like you'd be interested in, check it out. Zombie Grease, my man, what's up? Old school Zombie Grease, good to see you in here tonight. See, Night has a lot of German expression. Yes, it absolutely does. To me, there's something almost. It's also got a lot of like silent film feel to it, like especially the scenes when the cemetery zombie is chasing Barbara, and she gets to the house, and that whole scene there, it's almost shot and acted as if it were a silent film. even the scene in the cemetery when Johnny's being attacked by the cemetery ghoul. There's almost something silent film-esque about it. I think they covered that in Document of the Dead. I think they brought up that point, but very true. Susie, up your alley. Yes, I mean, yeah. If that sounds like something that'd be up your alley, definitely check it out. Like I said, originally when I first saw it, I was probably Season of the Witch. I'm talking about. When I first saw Season of the Witch, I was in high school. I was in my teens, and that was when I was first kind of really discovering all of George's work. And I wasn't a huge fan of it. I was, I was just because I mean, you're going into one thing. You're seeing a movie called Season of the Witch, and then the cover has like this weird creature-looking thing on it, which is turns out to be a mask. And then film. I didn't really know what the hell it was about. I just knew it was a Romero film, so I had to watch it. Wasn't a huge fan of it. And I think over time, I think with some of the releases, especially the Arrow Between Night and Dawn release that they put out a few years back, the restoration process on those films, there's always Vanilla, Season of the Witch, and the Crazies. The restoration on those films make it so much more watchable because, man, when I first saw it, it was that VHS tape from Media, I think, from like the old back in the day. And the sound was terrible. The picture quality was terrible. You could hardly make out what was going on in the film. But I think now I would suggest, I think it's also available on like Tubi and Amazon Prime, I believe I saw it on there, maybe Shudder. But yeah, if it sounds like something that would be up your alley, I'd definitely recommend checking it out because, like I said, the dialogue alone and just the themes that are going on in that film are just really interesting. And it was the one and only film that George worked on with his wife at the time, Nancy Romero. So it's interesting to, I don't know too much about Nancy Romero, to be honest with you. But I've always wondered how much input and how much of that film was hers at the time, because it's very different than a lot of what George would go on to do, with Crazies and Martin and stuff like that later on into the 70s. But yeah. So yeah, I wanted to show this before we start the film. I wanted to show this pretty cool. I'm going to do a screen share here. This was discovered, like I said, by John Bulow on the George Romero official Night of the Living Dead fan page on Facebook. Something pretty cool. Let me see if I can add this to the stream here. So yeah, so let me read this. This is why I champion getting the 4K releases of Night and Dawn. I keep finding stuff I've never seen before. I noticed this sometime last year. While watching, I noticed this shot, and what's so interesting about it, I've never seen the moon in a shot from night. So if you see in this photo here, I don't know if you can see right here, maybe I can zoom in on it here in a minute, but you can see the moon back there in the corner, which is the type of, the little stuff that I look for when I'm watching film. So when somebody discovers stuff like this, I'm floored by it. I love it. Not only is this super cool, but if you have an idea when the film was shot, you can figure out the day and even the time from the moon phase and position in the sky. Now, this is more work than I'd be willing to put into it, but God bless him for doing it, because this is awesome. It's been confirmed that the movie was mostly filmed in June of 1967, so using a lunar calendar, I could estimate the date. The day, Sunday, June 18th, 1967, 55 years ago today. So when we're watching the film, when it gets to this point, you'll know that give or take. I think he says here, how cool is that? Again, this is approximate. It could be off by a day or so, but I think it's pretty accurate. So it's pretty cool to know that we're literally on the 55th anniversary to the day that scene was shot, where they're going for the gas, trying to fill up the truck, and all hell's breaking loose around them. So I thought that was pretty damn cool. Then of course he gives a link for the weather stats where he got the picture from. Then it's got a little chart here showing. I don't know. Like I said, this is above my pay grade on all this, but it's just something really cool I saw earlier, and I was like, well, it's pretty damn fitting that we're going to be watching Night of the Living Dead tonight. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, because that's, like I said, I'm here for all the minutia like that. Susie's so cool. Yeah. I mean, it is pretty damn cool, and that's the beautiful thing about Romero fans like John, like myself. I mean, you give us an inch and we'll take it a mile. We'll we'll figure out the date, place, time something was filmed, how it was filmed, who was there. Really, really cool. So yeah, just wanted to share that with you guys before we started the film tonight. But yeah, like I said, I'm watching the Criterion 4K. Let me see, where's the remote? What did I do with the remote? Or maybe I'm not. If I can't find the remote, I don't know if this is gonna work. Give me 1 sec. Excuse me if you see my dick too close to the camera there. Oh, it's over here. Hang on a second. Give you a chance to check out my collection of shit over here. All right. So, 1968, this is where it all began. This is where the idea of the flesh-eating ghoul, the flesh-eating zombie began. It's pretty remarkable to think, and it's one of the reasons why I fell in love. The first time I actually watched Night of the Living Dead, didn't love it. I actually saw the 1990 version first, the Tom Savini remake, and I loved that at the time. But as time has gone on over the years, fell in love with Night of the Living Dead, the original from 1968. Fell in love with that movie and kind of didn't quite love the 1990 version as much. I just think there's more to this one. There's something about the idea that a bunch of friends can get together, find an old farmhouse and make a movie, shooting on weekends. I think that's every indie guerrilla filmmaker's dream, is to do that and be able to make something as timeless and classic as Night of the Living Dead, and culturally, inspirational as Night of the Living Dead. Let's see. Turn on subtitles. What the fuck is that? I guess that'll work. So, okay. So if you want to sync it up at home, I'll give you a second to, I don't know, any version you want to do. The Elite version, the Millennium Edition. I think that's out there. And then I think, who did the 40th anniversary? I think, was that Lionsgate? I don't remember. There's a billion. That's the one thing about, Night of the Living Dead being in public domain, is that, especially on VHS, my God, and DVD is just as bad. I mean, you can find a billion different versions of Night of the Living Dead out there. But to me, this is the best version, the Criterion. So if you don't have it, I definitely suggest grabbing it. Let's see what Zombie Grease got to say here. Romero got lucky. He got a crew that believed enough in the project to work for peanuts. That is 100% true. That is 100% true. And that's a question I've always wanted to ask. And I have asked to an extent. I remember asking Jeannie Jeffries that last year about Dawn and something like that. I think the fact that they had all been working together on commercials and stuff for Latent Image kind of maybe, made them believe a little more. But yeah, just the thought of George was such a, magnetic personality that, he probably could make you believe, hey man, nobody makes movies in Pittsburgh. We have no money. We're going to shoot it on weekends. You're going to be in it. You're going to be in it. You're going to be in it. And, we're going to do it. And it's really hard to get people to buy into that. From personal experience, I can tell you, it's hard to get people to buy into the fact, or to the idea that you're going to make a movie where you're at. You don't have to go to Hollywood to do it, or Canada or New Zealand or wherever they're shooting most movies now. I think they're shooting a lot of them fucking Bulgaria or something now. But there is something really unique and really special to the fact that you can get a group of people to really buy in and believe enough to put in the work, put in the effort, and not lose faith over time. So yeah, I think that's incredibly, incredibly special about this film. Saw the remake when it was released to cable, probably around 12. I thought zombies were lame up to that point and didn't know their direct preferences. Well, the only exposure to zombies that I had going into watching Night of the Living Dead 90, the Savini version, first time, was Resident Evil. I was at that age where the first 3 Resident Evil games that had come out, I was a huge fan of. I mean, me, my cousins, I lived kind of like in I guess what you'd call a holler down in Western Kentucky. So I grew up just around my cousins. We all lived in the same area. So we'd go play in the woods. We'd play in the junkyard. We'd go play. There was a rock quarry. Rock Quarry, whatever you would call it, Rock Quarry, right near our houses. We'd go play in that. It was insane. And one thing that it just captivated our imaginations at the time with those Resident Evil games. And I remember specifically my aunt at the time noticing that that's all we wanted to do is either play the video games or go outside and pretend to be playing, you know. But yeah, I remember her specifically saying, "Oh, there's a movie, Night of the Living Dead. It's about zombies. You'd probably like it." So I went to the movie store, found the 90 version, which I thought was the version of Night of the Living Dead, and that's the first one I watched, and I fell in love with it. I was like, "This is fucking everything." And then it grew from there. I discovered Dawn of the Dead, and eventually, I think I saw Night of the Living Dead last. I saw Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. And then I went back to watch the original Night of the Living Dead because, you know, it's in black and white. It's an older movie and blah, blah, blah. I just wasn't ready for it. And then I had, you know, probably 15, 16 years old. I finally, it was playing on A&E, or I think it was A&E at the time at like 2 a.m. So I set my VCR, recorded it, watched it, had commercials and like infomercials and shit in the middle of it. But I remember just going back to watch it. And I think the thing that really sold me on that film was there was a documentary on IFC that had come out at the time called The American Nightmare. And that's what made me want to go back and give it another shot. And I instantly fell in love with it. I think that may be Night of the Living Dead, even more so than Dawn of the Dead, made me want to grow up to be a filmmaker when I was younger, in my teen years. Just because it's such a simple concept. It was a group of people throwing in some money, getting together on weekends, and making a movie. And that's, you know, that's how you had to do it back in the day. But yeah, that was definitely the first. We went from my discovery to the Resident Evil games, and I always wanted Romero to. That was always my dream before the actual first Resident Evil film came out, was that Romero was going to be the one to do it, which he was close, but they really fucked him out of that one and gave us the whatever that piece of shit was. Sorry. One sec. Sorry about that. Somebody's shooting fireworks outside. I guess they're shooting fireworks for Father's Day or something. And dogs hear fireworks and they lose their goddamn minds. Will Phelps, Bowling Green, Kentucky. Hey, what's up, man? I actually grew up right down the road in Hopkinsville. Lived there most of my life. Living in Evansville now. Holy shit, this is not going to end well. Hang on a second. Timeout. All right, folks. The dogs are not happy right now. These fucking assholes shooting fireworks for no goddamn reason. They're going to hear another one. They're going to go nuts. I apologize. But yeah, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, man. Right down the road. Living in Evansville now. But yeah, born and raised in Hoptown. Yours was Thriller. I probably had seen Thriller before I'd seen the Resident Evil, but I was still kind of young at the time, so I really didn't register with me. Jimmy Gwaltney, good to see you, man. Found out about Dawn of the Dead when one of the cable channels would air the incredibly strange film show. That's actually on YouTube. I just watched that not too long ago. It's actually up on YouTube. And, that was shortly after I saw the remake, so I became more of a horror nerd after that. Well, yeah, that's. I was always a big horror fan. Like, even growing up as a kid, I specifically remember watching fucking Hellraiser when I was like 3-4 years old with my dad. And it wasn't like a traumatic experience for me somehow. I don't know. It was just one of those things I thought was really, really cool. I don't understand how that happens, but yeah, I'd always been just attracted to horror in general. But then there was just something about zombies and something about Romero in general that became my sole soul thing. I think before that, I grew up loving Tales from the Dark Side. I didn't even know that was a Romero adjacent project. But I remember watching Tales from the Dark Side when I was like 4 or 5 years old, watching it over and over again. I just thought it was so cool. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the film here. I'm going to go ahead and hit play if you got it synced up. If you want to watch along at home, I'm just going to be kind of watching, answering questions, whatever you guys want to do. Just going to be checking out this 4K. So I'm going to be hitting play now. And okay, got the Criterion symbol up, and we are rolling. I always loved Criterion's just weird collection of films. It's like in the Criterion sale that they have at Barnes and Noble, where it's like 50% off. They do it like once or twice every year. I got this. I got Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage, Symbiopsycho Taxoplasm Take One, which is some weird. I don't even know how to describe it. But yeah, for the Ghost World, they had that. The Brood, Cronenberg's The Brood. Image 10. So now we're on the opening scene here with the long drive up the road. Barbara and Johnny. And just great opening shot here. I'd love to find this location. I'm not exactly sure where it would be. It's kind of hard to tell. I'm sure. I'm sure I may have driven down this road before. I'm not even sure. I'm sure it's changed a ton over 55 years, believe it or not. Vince Stravinsky, George Casana. Photographed by the Latent Image. Sound engineer. Gary Striner. If you guys have never met Gary Striner, he was one of the sound engineers on this film. He's one of the coolest guys you can meet at a convention. Just loves talking about this film and just talking to the fans. And here's the gorgeous cemetery entrance. Still looks a lot like it did. I mean, here you can tell they've done a little updating and upkeep. The sign has changed. That cemetery, which I wish they still had that rusty, bullet holes in them cemetery entrance sign there, but they've replaced that with a newer, more updated version. Zombie Grease first horror was truly the old classic Universal monsters. I was probably aware of them growing up. Halloween was always a big thing for my family. On my mom's side, we'd go. I mean, I'd see family members on Halloween that I wouldn't see for Christmas or any other time. So yeah, I remember. They would have your Frankenstein decorations and stuff like that. But I'd never watched any of the old classic Universal monsters. I was a little bit younger than that. My classic monsters that we grew up with that were on TV all the time were your Jasons, your Freddys, and stuff like that. Michael Myers. Susie, you got to do it. You got to get out there. I don't know where you're located. I don't know how far of a drive or plane ride it would be for you, but as somebody who waited years and years and years and years to do it, tomorrow's never guaranteed. So get out there, check it out when you get a chance. 7577 Franklin Road is the address. To the cemetery? I believe that's right. Is that what you're talking about, Will? Located in Annapolis, Maryland. So how far is that to Pittsburgh? I'm not too familiar with Maryland. I've never been to Maryland, so Not too sure how far that is from Pittsburgh, but I can't recommend it enough, especially now that they've torn down the airport from Dawn of the Dead, and everything's changed. The cemetery for Evans City still looks a lot the same, minus a few trees, as you can see here. And man, this 4K transfer looks gorgeous. A lot of the trees were uprooted and taken out during, I think it was a tornado back in the early 90s. I believe it took it out. Yeah, there's a big tree here on the right-hand side of the screen next to the headstone where their father's buried, next to the famous Blair headstone. Famous Exorcist stairs. That'd be a good one to see. I'd love to check that out sometime. Okay, I get what you're saying, Will. Cranberry Township, open. Okay, gotcha. Interesting. I'll have to write that down for my next time up there. Appreciate that, man. Been to Monroeville Mall for the 25th anniversary, so it was over a 4-hour drive. So that's not bad. For me, it's an 8-hour drive from here in Evansville. So yeah, if you were there from Monroeville, Evans City is maybe 45 minutes or so, depending on which way you take. And of course, it's got all the locations and stuff from the crazies there as well. I always love this shot. You see Bill Heinzman's cemetery ghoul staggering in the background. And it's one of those things I think they point out in Document of the Dead. It's kind of where George is talking about his style and what may be a little Hitchcockian about it. How something's just kind of in the background and it's, you don't think of it as a threat or anything. It's just kind of something happening in the background. Then all of a sudden it's a big threat, Love the way it builds up here. Jimmy Evans City and Monroeville are awesome places. I agree. To me, that would be my dream place to live. I just, there's something about the area, something in the air. I mean, it's I'd love, like, Evans City would be perfect. Somewhere maybe outside of Evans City, like Mars, or like a smaller Zelienople or something like that. I just love that area. I don't know. I think it's just the years and years and years of growing up watching Romero's films and all the locations. I don't know. I totally agree, though. Monroeville is fun, too. Even Pittsburgh. Even if you go downtown Pittsburgh, there's still a small town vibe to it. I don't know how to describe it. Everybody's very, very cool there. From my experience. I don't know if you've ever been to Pittsburgh and then somebody just robbed you or something. I don't know, but... Oh, Johnny's about to get his. Like I said, this feels very silent film-esque. The way that this plays out here. There's not a lot of screaming or dialogue. There's something kind of off-putting about it. I always thought Bill Heinzman, I guess it's just the makeup or something in this film, but I always thought he looked a lot older than he actually was at the time. I thought he was like an actual old man. Maybe I think it's just the way that his face, the way he's got his face, it's more, there's more wrinkles to it or something. I'm not sure, but I always thought he was an older guy than he actually was. Because he was about the same age, I believe, as George and Jack Russo, Russ Reiner, and all them. Carter, what's up, buddy? Good to see you in here, man. How you been? Old friend of mine. About 5 miles from the cemetery. Okay, I got you. From the... said you were just there for... You were at the most recent LDW? Awesome. How was it, man? Did you enjoy yourself? It gets better and better every year. This is my third year in a row going to that. Third year in a row checking out all the locations and stuff, too. I'd like next year, which I mentioned on the last stream, I plan on maybe taking another trip up to Pittsburgh. Even before that, whenever they get that Martin 2.5 hour black and white cut put together at the once they get that all transferred over at the archive at the University of Pittsburgh, because you don't have to be a student or anything there to see it, to actually look and go through the archive. I mean, there's, like I said, I could spend a week in there if I had it, but I'm in Greenfield. The old Shock Theater on Saturday afternoons. They play the old Universal classics. The closest thing that I remember us having at the time like that, growing up, was probably Joe Bob's Terror Vision on TNT, stuff like that. They used to play a lot of stuff on Sci-Fi, the Sci-Fi channel back then. I remember me and my cousin Justin, who's big into horror and stuff. I mean, we would always bounce stuff off of each other all the time, like movies that we'd seen. Like, oh, dude, you got to check this out. You got to watch this. You got to watch that. We'd stay with my grandparents, and we'd stay up on watching movies on Sci-Fi Channel all the time. I mean, they'd show like Phantasm and they'd play all the Phantasm movies, and so. And my God, it was almost like a ritual on Halloween to watch, John Carpenter's Halloween and all the sequels, and Friday the 13th. They'd have the Friday the 13th marathon, which they still do now on like AMC, but I don't know. There was just something different about when you're a kid and you're watching it on like TNT or TBS or something like that. It was always really cool. It's in DC and missed the Exorcist stairs. I haven't been to any of the LTW events. I've been on a horror con hiatus once I had kids. Hope to get back to it. That's totally understandable. And I kind of went into this a little bit on the last stream, just about conventions in general. I mean, it takes a lot of money and a lot of time, especially now, especially if you're traveling. Because by the time you get there, if you're flying in, you got to buy plane tickets. If you're driving in, gas, if you rent a car, whatever you got to do. Then by the time you get hotel, I mean, if you want to get a hotel anywhere near, especially like Monroeville, anywhere near the Monroeville Mall, and goddamn the DoubleTree, which I've stayed at the last 3 times. Maybe my last time this year. It's just, it's so expensive because they jack those rates through the roof because they know that it's coming, and then once you get to the actual convention, you buy your tickets, you get your VIP and all that stuff. I mean, you can rack up, and I totally understand once you have kids and you get a little older and you got more responsibilities and more bills to pay and more shit to take care of. It can be pretty hard to make it out to these conventions. But I will say that's the thing about Living Dead Weekend is that it is a more cost efficient convention to go to. Like I said, I think the most that anybody was charging there for an autograph was $40, and that includes a photo. I mean, you go to some of these like Horror Hound or Monster Mania, stuff like that. I mean, it can get ridiculous, especially if you're trying to get somebody like Robert Englund or somebody like that. I mean, shit. Hell, some of them I've seen for like The Undertaker or I think The Undertaker was charging like over $200 per signature, an extra for photos. And I understand why they do that. Sean Clark, who works with a lot of celebrity guests and does a lot with conventions, actually just did a podcast on the inner workings of conventions and how you book guests and how you set guarantees, stuff like that. Really interesting, and it really sheds a lot of light on it. And like I said, I just think when the Walking Dead blew up and all those guys were doing conventions, I mean, it was over. I mean, when Norman Reedus started charging $80 for an autograph, and he's got a line, through the middle of the convention hall out the door. I mean, everybody else looked around and saw that. It's like, well, why am I charging 20? He's in a I'm so and so. I should be charged. I could charge at least 40. So yeah, it's just crazy. It's crazy now. It takes a lot of money to hit up as many conventions as I would like to. It was a blast. LDW. Yeah, they're doing the Evans City 55th anniversary Living Dead Weekend in October. I'd like to make it out there for that one. It's just kind of hard. I kind of got to pick every year which one I want to go to, and typically it's always gonna be Dawn of the Dead's always gonna win out. I'm gonna do, especially for the 45th anniversary. So Ben just showed up. Sorry, I've barely been watching this. I'm trying to keep up with all you guys' comments. I appreciate all the traffic in here tonight, guys. It's really really cool. Uh, just hit 100 subscribers, by the way. Big accomplishment. That was something I was hoping maybe I could do by the end of my first year of doing this shit. But 5 months in, and you guys made it happen. I really appreciate it. Dwayne Jones is such an interesting character. There's actually an interview. I have an interview that was featured on one of the DVD. I think it was the Millennium DVD, the Millennium version. Just an audio interview of him. He was such an interesting guy. I think there was always an issue with him being known as the guy from Night of the Living Dead. I remember at a certain point he referred to it as the silly monster movie that he made early in his career. But he went on to do other things. I think he was in Beat Street, I think is what it was called, in the late 80s. He also did what was that movie? He did a smaller film after Night of the Living Dead, which I don't know if you can get smaller than Night of the Living Dead, but it's right on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember what it is, but he did work after this. But he was a really interesting, really well read, deep thinker kind of guy. And I think he brought something. I mean, yeah, the fact that he's a black man as the hero, as the lead in this film was definitely, I mean, when George always says, that was not his intention. It just happened to be that, that Duane was the best actor amongst their friends that they knew, which was probably true because he does a fantastic job in this, and he was a really sorry, I just getting lost in the movie. But he's a really renowned and an accomplished actor. But I think he just brought something. There was something just tragic, more so, because I think in the original screenplay he was meant to be like a crazed trucker, or maybe not a crazed trucker, but just kind of more of a big burly trucker, like I got this type of. I think the fact that he's more of a emotional, more with it character. I thought the juxtaposition between him and Harry Cooper. I think Duane did a fantastic job on that. Will, it needs. I'm guessing you're talking about the DoubleTree, and yes, it does. While it's really nice location wise to be right across the parking lot from the Monroeville Mall and all that, and boy, there's nothing that gets my dick harder than waking up in the morning and opening the window and seeing it's the Monroeville Mall. Oh, it's there, But on the other hand, you are paying over $200 a night for a hotel that doesn't have a microwave, doesn't have a refrigerator. Yeah, it does need some work. And I remember the first year we stayed there, I was like, well, maybe we were coming right out. COVID was still kind of in kind of going on at the time, and I think they had closed and were just kind of reopening. But yeah, at this point, it's kind of ridiculous for what you're paying for it. It really is. So yeah, I'm probably gonna look elsewhere next year to see, because I mean, yeah, part of the charm is of the DoubleTree is hanging out downstairs, after after the convention's over, late at night. Everybody's down there having a good time. But fuck, man, I'm old. Like I can't stay up that late anymore. Even when I try to, even when I plan to, it's like, man, 12 o'clock rolls around. I'm like, I gotta go. Like I can't party like I used to. I'm too old now. Cinemax back in the late 80s, early 90s would play the best horror movies at night. Yeah, they would. And that was like back, I remember growing up, that was always one of we discovered so many films on, which is watching Cinemax, HBO, Showtime, late at night. Of course, it was like it was right in the middle of like all the softcore porn and real sex and stuff like that. But every now and then you'd catch, I think the first time I saw Night 90, I rented it. But I think after that, I'd recorded it on my own VHS, my VCR, just from when it was playing on Stars, I think, or something like that. Started crafting to get myself back into it eventually. I want to bend it one. You absolutely should. Absolutely. Um, and that's another thing too. I the prices of some of these autographs and these signatures, and just the price of admission. I do think it is kind of hurting vendors sometimes. Um, I try to always, buy something from some vendors every now and then. At the conventions that I go to, and I haven't gone to a ton. I don't go to a lot of conventions just for the reason we were talking about. But yeah, what is it that you do, Susie? I don't know if I've ever. Do you do just like wood? Like what kind of crafts do you do? I might be interested in just buying something off of you, just through the mail. I'm always. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm always in the market to buy some cool Romero shit to put up in my room here. Return of the Living Dead screening at the Draft House next month. That sounds fucking awesome. I'm guessing that's in Austin, Texas Draft House. I'm guessing that's a little too far for me, but yeah, that would be really cool to see. I don't think I haven't seen Return of the Living Dead on the big screen. That would be one that I think would be kind of a party atmosphere. If I were to guess. Do you plan on going to that, Zombie? Not sure what that is. Yeah, Days of the Dead has a reunion next weekend. Yeah, in Indianapolis, they're doing a Night of the Living Dead reunion. I think Kyra Schoen's going to be there. Judith O'Day, Judith Ridley, Russ Striner, Paula Richards. I want to say that. I don't know. I want to say Jack Russo will be there, but that's just because he's typically at in every convention selling his stuff, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, that was one I was thinking about going to, but I just don't think I'm going to have the funds for it. Coming off of Living Dead weekend, I tried to rein myself in on that too, but still ended up spending a little more than I wanted to. The patience of Duane Jones, Ben, in this. Barbara's losing her mind, and and he's just like trying to rein her in. Apologize for the dogs, folks. Yeah, Night of the Living Dead in Indianapolis. Fright House. What's Fright House? Elaborate on that for me, Will. Zombie Grease. Remember back in the day, they had the Horror Hall of Fame, and this film was nominated into it along with The Exorcist. Yeah, and you can't argue with any of those. Out of those, though, I'd probably Alien is probably the one I like least. I think it's a fantastic movie, but yeah, Horror Hall of Fame. I mean, you can't have a Horror Hall of Fame without The Exorcist, Alien, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and of course, Night of the Living Dead. I'd probably put Psycho in ahead of Alien in terms of just like influential horror films from that era. But if Duane was still around and was part of these conventions, oh my God, it would be awesome. Yeah, I don't even know. Honestly, if he were still alive and around today, I don't know if he would even be doing the conventions. I mean, he may have done one, like I know the original Zombie Jamboree back in '93. He may have done something like that, but I just think Duane was just just a different cat, man. By all accounts, anybody that worked with him on this or at any point throughout his career, always knows in a book, a real intellectual. Not to say that that people that do conventions aren't intellectual or anything like that, but I just don't know if it would have been his. I don't know if it would have been his bag to really do a lot of conventions. I think he would probably, the idea of signing his name on something and getting paid for it. I think he might That's the thing. We will never know, unfortunately. Um, but man, could you imagine? Yeah, the line. And that's the thing about Night of the Living Dead, man. There's not a lot of people left to do these conventions. I mean, like we mentioned, Kyra Schoen, Judith O'Day, Judith Ridley, Russ Striner, John Russo, Paula Richards, one of the ghouls. But we've lost Bill Heinzman, we've lost George Casana. Gary Striner's still doing conventions. He's a really good one. But we've lost Duane, of course. Um, and I've always I brought this up doing the top 10 Romero villains and kind of defending Harry Cooper, who we're going to meet here in just a little bit. But it just seems like it was a really stupid move for Duane to literally turn on every light in the house and just start hammering and boarding up the doors and making all this commotion and noise. It just drew them in and attracted them even more. Which is another reason why I say Harry Cooper was right, folks. Ben and Harry's aggression towards each other was intense off the bat during the remake. Yeah, that's true. I love Tom Towles. I loved him in Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, and I thought he did a really good job in the Night remake. But there was just something about that film, and I know Tom Savini's talked about in the past. It's not the film that he wanted to make originally. There was more that he wanted to do. There was more he wanted to flesh out, but money and time constraints really limited all that he could and was able to do. But I just think, that movie, it's literally as soon as Harry Cooper shows up in that version, everybody's insane already. It feels like the thing that separates this, and everybody always talks shit about Judith O'Day, Barbara's character. It's like, oh, she wouldn't just turn to Jello and just sit on the couch and zone out. I mean, why wouldn't she? I don't understand. Like, I get it. We live in a time where we've been through the Sigourney Weavers and the Wonder Womans and the strong female leads, and they turn Barbara's character into that strong type of character in the remake. But you're talking about a situation where the rules of nature have been completely twisted. Put yourself in that situation for a minute. There's probably a pretty goddamn good chance that I would turn to Jello and sit on this fucking couch and just stare off into space, trying to compartmentalize, like, what the fuck is going on? Like, literally an hour ago, I was in the car riding with my brother, going to a cinema. Now I'm in this house and he's dead, and dead people are coming back to life and eating each other. Like, I'm sorry, most people cannot deal with that and compartmentalize it within 2 hours and be like, okay, well, I'm good. They're slow. I'm going to load up and go shoot some zombies. It's like, no, in real life, fuck, man, we can our brains can hardly wrap around day-to-day life as it is. I mean, shit, when COVID happened, people were losing their minds. So I couldn't imagine if literally the dead were coming back to life and killing people all around you. Like, I don't know. I don't even know how I got off on that tangent, but just the differences between Night 90 and Night of the Living Dead. I mean, these characters are still trying to figure out, trying to deal with what's going on mentally. The world is literally shifting. This is a fantastic scene, by the way. Duane's monologue here, scattered through the air like bugs. You see the emotion. I mean, Barbara, oh man, that's beautiful here in the 4K. I don't know if I've ever really noticed it, but you can actually see a tear falling from Barbara's eye as she's telling her story now. Wow, I don't think I've ever noticed that until now, watching this 4K. Yeah. I don't know. I think the performances are great. I mean, these are literally just locals from the Pittsburgh area. I think Barbara she was Pittsburgh. Judith O'Day was Pittsburgh. This is great scene. Barbara's trying to tell her story, but she's lost her. She's lost her, sense of communication almost. She's just kind of. I love the part where she's telling the stories like, Johnny asked me if we had any candy. We didn't have any candy. It's like that. There's no reason to tell that part of the story, but Barbara's literally struggling to figure out how to tell any part of her story without completely losing her mind. Trying to catch up here on some of the comments. Would have been awesome to meet Duane. Yeah, 100% agree. Would have been. Met Romero in 2004, 2005. Memories failing me. I met Romero one time, and that was in 2008 at the Texas Frightmare Weekend. And I've seen people say this on the Living Dead Weekend page. They always say, don't meet your heroes; they'll always let you down. Well, that was not the case with George. I think everybody that ever met George, who looked at him as a hero figure, never let down by him. I certainly wasn't, and I was a blubbering. I wouldn't say blubbering, but when you're walking up, you're standing in line, you're meeting somebody you always wanted to meet. You're going through your head, you're going through all these scenarios of, what am I going to say? Oh, I'm going to craft the perfect question. I'm going to say the perfect thing. I'm going to really convey. I'm going to sum up all of my feelings about this person in one, sentence or whatever. You play through it in your head 1,000 times. Well, I had it played. It was playing out in my head the whole time up there, whole time standing in line. It took about maybe 2 hours or so standing in line waiting to meet George. Finally get up to his table, and I fucking freeze. I look at George and I'm just like, I am your biggest fan. The most fanboy shit you could say to somebody. And of course, if you say that to Tom Savini or somebody like that, they'll probably shrug it off and be like, yeah, okay, well, I've heard that before. But George was just like, oh wow, really? That's great to meet you. I appreciate it. Something he's heard 1,000 times before. But yeah, people watch. I'm a huge people watcher. It's a perfect place to people watch. Screening here in San Antonio. Oh, so they're doing it in San Antonio, the Return of the Living Dead screening. That's pretty cool. That's another good thing. I know a lot of people talk about theaters dying, and I think a lot of the big, like, the AMC theaters and stuff like that. A lot of those theaters are struggling, but I am seeing a lot more small, like your Alamo Draft Houses and those types of theaters. Maybe not actual Alamo Draft Houses, but you see a lot of those. Smaller, not, I guess you'd call them independent theaters, but I'm seeing a lot more of those pop up, and those seem to be doing fairly well. I mean, I guess as well as you could do for an independent theater. But I see a lot of packed houses, and they're playing a lot of old films, and it's pretty exciting. That's the other film Duane Jones was in. Did I miss something? Oh, Fright House. Fright House was the other film Duane Jones was in. Yeah, he was also he was in something else though. It's Ganja and Hess. That's the other film he did. I think right after Night of the Living Dead. It was Ganja and Hess. Was another film that Duane was in. Butterfly Story. Thought Duane's Butterfly Story was moving. Or Moth. Heard this is Russ last year doing cons. I believe that. I mean, like I said, man, these guys are not getting any younger. I was surprised to not see. I was actually surprised not to see Russ at the Living Dead weekend last weekend. But yeah, that makes total sense to me. If he's winding it down, I've met him a couple of times. Very, very nice guy. Very nice guy. That sucks. And I had this conversation with about David Emge with a friend of mine at Living Dead weekend last weekend too. There's another guy that just will never be able to do another convention just for health reasons. I think he's in assisted living or whatever's going on that. But yeah, I think that'd be the big selling point for me to try to make it up in October, just to meet Russ one last time. I need to meet Kyra again now that I have her iconic zombie tattoo. Oh, that's awesome. Um, I've always wanted that tattoo, to be honest with you. I have a Dawn of the Dead tattoo. That was the first tattoo I ever got. I always told myself and everybody else as soon as I turned 18, the first tattoo I was going to get was a Dawn of the Dead tattoo, and I'll be damned if that wasn't the first tattoo that I got. But I always wanted that the Kyra Shone. I've actually never met Kyra Shone. That's one that I still need to meet. Her and Judith Ridley. I've never met Judith Ridley either. Um, so yeah, I definitely got to get off my ass and get to them, meet them while they're still available. The abnormal because that sounds like a familiar U.S. backdrop that parallels. Yeah, the abnormal has become normal. No shit. I think of that every day. I wake up and look at Twitter or the news or whatever, and it's just like I don't know if anybody here is a fan of Tim Dillon, the comedian, but I've been listening to a lot of his podcasts lately. But just the way he sums it up sometimes. I'm trying to remember what the hell he said the other day that I had to laugh, and it was man, I can't think of what it is, but Tim Dillon, give it a shout out to him. He recently discovered him lately. Just speaking of abnormal becoming normal, I mean the U.S. is the ground zero for the abnormal becoming normal. We got Jimmy Judith. Today's character could have been like the one in '90 remake, but audiences back then might not have been prepared for such a female character. Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, yeah, you didn't see a lot of that back in '68, early '70s. Like I said, the feminist movement really hadn't started until the early '70s. But I just think that there was as she's waking up, I just think there was just a difference of how women were written in films back then. I mean, there were strong female characters in films back in the day, but I think that there was still just that archetype that hadn't been broken yet. I guess what would be the first? I mean, maybe if you could look at the blaxploitation stuff with Pam Grier, maybe in the '70s, like Coffee and Foxy Brown, I think is what it's called or whatever. But yeah, and George has always apologized for Barbara over the years. I think he was still trying to apologize for the way he wrote Barbara. With Dawn of the Dead, making Galen more of a stronger character, making Laurie Cardille and Day of the Dead the strongest character of all. She's in a cave full of fucking whacked out soldiers and scientists, and she's the only one that's really keeping it together as best as possible. But yeah, you're right. I just don't think many people would have been prepared for that back then. We were still in the era of the damsel in distress. Dawn was really as fun as fun. Better to have missed it. Yeah, they did the 3D. I was went to see that twice. I'm not a huge 3D fan. 3D glasses are kind of a pain in the ass for me as somebody wears glasses as it is. So I'm not the biggest 3D fan. There's most of the time I'm not going to go see something in 3D, but if it's Dawn of the Dead, I'll literally watch Dawn of the Dead if they, project it on the side of a barn and, BFE somewhere. So I wasn't going to miss it. I had to watch it twice. And it's like we mentioned earlier, just people watching. I love just going to movies that I've seen 100 times, movies that I love, and going and finding somebody who obviously hasn't seen the film before and kind of gauging their reaction to it and how they feel about it. Sorry, these dogs are losing their mind tonight. Yeah, Creepy Kentuckian and Uncle Bill, Dead Pit guys, actually sporting my Dead Pit shit tonight. Yeah, they did a very good Judith O'Day interview. This was probably 15 years ago that they did this. But yeah, they've done a lot of really good interviews over the years with a lot of Romero. But the funniest one, I just listened to this all the way through for the first time not too long ago. But this was probably 2007, 2008, maybe. Did an interview with Gary Clark, the guy who plays Steel from Day of the Dead. Did a full interview with him, and it's like a 2.5 hour, 3 hour interview where Gary Clark just went on and on and on. And they tell the story that they were like eating breakfast in the middle of it, but looking back on it now that Gary's gone and we don't have much of a record outside of that, he really did just kind of tell his entire story from growing up, his athletic background, getting into film, getting into acting, and all the way up. It was kind of nice to have, even though the story behind it's kind of funny. They were just kind of wanting like a 30-45 minute interview about Day of the Dead. They ended up getting this like 2.5-3 hour long, memoir or spoken memoir or whatever you want to call it of Gary Clark. But for us Romero fans, it was it's really interesting to go back and listen to now that he's gone. Yeah, Ripley and Alien. Zombie Grease. I have to ask, have you ever heard of the different Dawn ending? Peter shoots himself, Fran beheads herself, and the camera stays on the helicopter blades as the early engine sputter. Yes, that is and there's always been this debate back and forth over the years. God damn fucking dogs. Hang on a second. Anyway, yeah, there was always a debate over the years. George always said that they had filmed it, but other people had said that they never filmed it, that they just set up to film it, but they didn't. There's actually a photo out there of them trying. I guess they're just doing like a test run of course, the head that gets blown to pieces in the project scene at the beginning where Woolie's going through, blasting the shotgun, he blows dude's head up. That head is actually a cast of Galen Ross's head for the effect where she sticks her head in the propeller scene at the end of the film. But yeah, there's actually a photo out there of them, I guess, testing that effect, and I guess it didn't quite work as well as they were hoping. So I don't know how much that had to play into whether or not that's why they ended up changing the ending. But yeah, that was the original ending. I don't know if it would have played as well as the actual ending that's on there. The ending that we have is an upbeat kind of ending where they kind of fly off into the sunset and they're living on. But there is something about the idea that I think it's a little. So Peter shooting himself, I could see that. The Galen idea that she would just decapitate herself in the propellers of the helicopter is a little extreme. I don't feel like the Fran character would do something like that. But I think the idea that of the original ending that I love the most is the idea that after the credits roll, like you mentioned, the helicopter blades slow down and we realize that, so the helicopter just ran out of gas. So even if they hadn't decided to kill themselves, they were still going to run out of gas within the next 5 to 10 minutes or whatever it had been for the credits to roll. And I think that's just like, it's almost like you couldn't escape the inevitable, which is true. I think that's the underlying message of why Romero's zombies are so different, is that you cannot escape the inevitable. We all die. We're all going to die. You can't escape that fact in Romero's films. You can survive as long as you want to, but eventually, you could get pneumonia and die. You'll come back as a zombie. There's no beating this. You're not beating death. You can kill as many zombies as you want. Dr. Logan, lays it out for Captain Rhodes and Day of the Dead. It's like, do you really think you can blow the piss out of them, all of them? Because you can't. And I think that's the thing that I think that ending the original ending in Dawn of the Dead. I think that's why I like that the most, is that even if they did try to escape the helicopter, they would still we're going to run out of gas and be up shit creek anyway. So that was a really downer ending. So I can understand why they wanted to change it, because Dawn of the Dead, if you read the original script to what the movie eventually became, it became a much different film, a much lighter film. But yeah, that's a good question. That's a good conversation. Yeah, it sputters out and blades slow down, and I think that would just be a real depressing way to end the film. I don't know, but back to the movie here. We've just been introduced to Harry Cooper and Tom coming up from the basement. Now, yes, Harry Cooper is a huge pain in the ass and a huge asshole, and probably does nothing but make the situation worse. But I will say it again, he is right. Get your ass down in the cellar and lock that son of a bitch up. Yes, there was a debate. Yeah, would have made much more. Yeah, much more nihilistic. So Susan, I'm still bothered by the ending either way. We don't know the outcome once they've escaped. Yeah, but I mean, that's lives up to them. There's fan fiction out there. There's actually a book called, oh, what the hell is it called? It's in my Amazon. Let me look it up real quick. Or it's in my eBay. I think it's Reckoning of the Dead or something like that. Anyway, it's a fan fiction. It's a book that let me look it up real quick. It's fan fiction. It's a book that pretty much follows what happens to Peter and Fran once they escape. And I've always had my own theories. How far would they have made it in the helicopter? Probably. George, I remember in some interview, he thought that they probably made it to about Cleveland. I don't know where he got that from, but I mean, it's his movie, so he'd probably know better than anybody. But he says they got probably to about Cleveland before they ran out of gas and sputtered out. So now we're starting to get into the horde of zombies making their way towards the farmhouse. Let's see what that book is called, because it's available. I mean, you can find it on eBay for. It was going for a lot more, but I think you can get it for like $20 now or something. I think last I checked. Shit, what did I just say? But I think it says a lot about Harry Cooper's plan of just going down in the cellar and boarding it up. The fact that that's what they'd done originally, and the house was pretty much deserted. They didn't even know they were there when Ben and Barbara showed up. So it kind of proves the point that they were pretty fucking safe down there before Ben and Barbara showed up. Right. I think I'm trying to do too much here on my computer. And my phone's dead, so. Let's see, I'll do a screen share here if I can find it. If you guys are interested in just a fan take on whatever happened to Peter and Fran after they escaped the mall. Yeah, here it is. It's called Dead Reckoning, Dawning of the Dead. Do a screen share here if it's something you guys be interested in checking out. Yeah, you can get it for $19.95. By Anthony Giangregorio. I think that's how you pronounce that. But yeah, Dead Reckoning, Dawning of the Dead. It's on my watch list. Something I've been interested in checking out at some point, but just haven't bought yet. Galen confirmed that it was actually filmed. I asked her this past weekend. All right. So we got that. Yeah, I don't know. George always said that it was filmed. Tom said they never filmed it. There was always just kind of a back and forth debate about it. I guess Galen probably know. Like I said, there are photos out there of them doing the effect. Yeah, I don't know. It must just one of those things lost to time. If you go back to the Document of the Dead documentary that Roy Frumkus did, where he's talking to George, George actually does say that they filmed that ending because he wasn't willing to lose the tragic ending. So he does kind of go into that. Yeah, it was filmed at one point. Yeah, it was cool meeting Galen. Galen was really cool at Living Dead Weekend. She was up and down with everybody that came to her table. Happy to take a picture, happy to sign anything, happy to, really, really cool. And she was really excited to see. I have original green letter Dawn of the Dead one sheet signed by George, Tom, and I was getting her to sign it. And she was really happy and excited to see that George's name was on there. She pointed. She's like, "Oh, you got George? Oh, wow, okay." So yeah, we're out here in the basement here with the Happy Cooper family. I just feel bad for Harry. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a dad now too, and I kind of put myself in that situation. It would be hard if a complete stranger just shows up out of nowhere and tries to dictate what I do and decisions that I'm making with the best interest of my kid in mind. Yeah, he obviously the marriage here between him and Helen isn't the best, but which Carl Hardman and Marilyn Eastman were actually married in real life. They were for many, many years. And of course, we lost Carl Hardman. I think it was probably the early 2000s, I believe, when he died. And we just lost Marilyn Eastman not too long ago. I remember she was supposed to be at the Texas Frightmare weekend back in 2008 when I was supposed to be there, but she I think she made it, but once she got to the hotel there, I think she kind of fell ill and didn't make it down, so I wasn't able to meet her either. But that year it was the that was the 40th anniversary. It's been 15 years since that's insane. They also did that year. They also did a 40th anniversary screening of an original 35 millimeter print of Night of the Living Dead down in Dallas. That was really, really cool to be at. I was literally sitting right next to Tom Savini watching Night of the Living Dead, and Tom's just a huge fan because he was just sitting there the whole time, just eyes glued to the screen. And he's seen this movie 1,000 times at this point, but George was there. Malcolm McDowell was there, actually, which is funny enough. I think him and George introduced the film. So that was a good memory that I'll always remember. Of course, Judith Ridley here ended up marrying Russ Striner for a while there. She became known as Judith Striner. I believe they were married. I've been over this before. I think they were married before There's Always Vanilla or right after, somewhere around that time period. Matt Landrum, what's going on, buddy? Happy Father's Day to you. Good to see you in here, man. Hope you had a good Father's Day. You and your boy. And I'm about to have a doggy dad fucking blow up if these dogs don't shut up. I'm gonna end my Father's Day by kicking my dogs out of the house. Loud little bastards. I always thought the interesting thing, the unfortunate thing, we were talking about Dwayne Jones doing conventions if he were still here today. Then I think the big unfortunate thing is the fact that this farmhouse doesn't exist and actually ceased to exist shortly after this film was made. The whole reason that George and crew were able to get this farmhouse to begin with, is because they were planning on tearing it down. So they were able to get it for free, fairly cheap. I don't remember what it was. They were pretty much given free reign to, do whatever you want to do. Do what you want to. We were tearing it down anyway. So, and I think that's looking back on it. If this farmhouse was still around, I mean, if somebody had bought it, and if they would have known what Night of the Living Dead would have become, I you imagine somebody buying it and doing a bed and breakfast or a haunted house attraction or something, but no, I think very, very shortly after they wrapped filming in it, it was torn down and lost forever. So that's one location that I don't think anybody was able to get to before it was torn down. And they furnished the house. I remember, I think it was Russ Striner or somebody said they furnished the house, all the furniture and stuff in the house. They literally went to like a Salvation Army or a Goodwill and gave them, said, hey, we're gonna $50 and you can fill up your truck, van, or whatever with as much furniture and shit as you can get. So that's how they furnished the house. That's how they got their the production design from the Goodwill, which planted that thing in my brain when I was trying to make my little, no budget indie films in high school. Was they would have this? I think it was at the Goodwill. They would every now and then they would have all shirts were a dime or all pants were a quarter, and we would just go rack up on all these fucking clothes that we never had any intention of wearing, but just for future film shoots or whatever we wanted to do, we had our costume department. We furnished it from Goodwill, so that kind of planted that idea into my brain, and that's how you can do these sort of things. It's just go to Goodwill. And I think one of the big things you see here, the news reports on the radio and on the TV, I think that's one of the big things that really separated Night of the Living Dead from a lot of other horror films at the time. Was you didn't see, it was almost like reality was kind of separate from the world that the film was being made in. So it's like everybody grew up with, Dracula and Frankenstein, and it was always in this gothic, faraway land somewhere. But I think just the fact that people were kind of watching a film where the horror of the situation, the monsters, the zombies were kind of being treated as almost like it were really happening. There were TV reports and stuff like that. And when it was shot in black and white, which, 68 being shot on black and white was kind of passe at the time. Everything else was being filmed in color at the time. So this being a black and white, which I think at the time most people still had black and white televisions. There were just so many little things like that really just really set Night of the Living Dead apart from a lot of the other horror films that were coming out around this time. And they play it so straight, like all the news reports and stuff like that. You see the rescue stations being listed at the bottom of the screen, and just how there's just something about all these characters sitting around a TV screen, watching this news report with everything going on outside, instead of actually dealing with the situation in real time. It's the same shit we're doing now. We gather around a screen, whether it's a TV screen or a computer screen or our phone screen. We just gather around and tell us what to do. What does the TV say to do? It's instead of just taking action on your own. It's like you're always looking for somebody else to tell you what to do. And of course, They actually went to Washington, D.C. to film this, and this is the one cameo with George here on the left-hand side, holding the mic, asking the questions. So I don't know if the what do you guys think? Is it the was it the radiation that caused this to happen? Is it something beyond our realm? Because there's really, I mean, they never answer that question throughout these films. I like Terry Alexander's explanation in Day of the Dead. It's just kind of it's just one of those things, you know. We'll never understand. We'll try, you know, like we'll never understand why the stars are the way they are, you know. That whole scene there, it's like we're gonna try because it's in our nature to try to understand it, but you know, maybe it's just we got too big for our own britches, and it was just God letting us know that He's still the boss man. I like the way He says that, letting us know that He's still the boss man. Uh, your father saw night in Vietnam. That's pretty heavy. That's pretty heavy stuff. I've always been attracted to Vietnam in that time period for some reason. I just think that was the real turning point in our country's history was Vietnam. Crazy, crazy stuff. And of course, I grew up around my uncles and stuff were in Nam. They'd always tell us the horror stories and shit like that. So just had the same conversation with friends over LDW. If anyone had known the cultural impact that night would have, I'm sure they would have preserved the house. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, how would anybody know? I mean, it was just literally a group of guys in Pittsburgh getting together, making a movie in some abandoned farmhouse. I mean, they were probably just like, we're just going to let these people play and do what they want to do. And then when it's over, burn the house down and get rid of it. But yeah, just it's if only they knew what the gold mine that they had that they were sitting on. I guarantee you, whoever actually owned the house after the film came out and became the cultural phenomenon that it did, I guarantee I would have been just sick. That's what I heard about the people who bought the land the house was on, that they regret tearing it down. Yeah, I mean, they have to. Have to. Yeah, so Zombie Grease pretty much uh, confirming what I was saying a minute ago. First saw Night on a black and white TV. I think, like I said, when Night came out, I mean, shit, for most people pretty much still had black and white TVs up through probably the late 70s, I would say. Maybe mid 70s or so. But hell, I remember when I was doing that Dawn of the Dead edited for TV cut, when I was editing commercials in, they would do a commercial for a TV and it would be like, this is a color TV and it looks real, you know. So it was still new even in the late 70s, new concept. So what was really in the Venus space probe? We'll never know. Never know. Matt Landrum, no more room in hell, man. That's as good of an explanation as any. It's the voodoo. So we're at a point in the film now where Harry Cooper and Ben and everybody's trying to work together. There's a little bit of a plan here. And Harry Cooper's reluctantly trying to play along. But I think everybody's kind of half in, half out. Judy's not sure. Harry Cooper's still just like, what are we doing? One thing about the character of Tom in this is Keith Wayne. I believe he was from New York or somewhere around there. Um, I think he would come in just for his parts on the weekends every now and then. Um, hang on, let me get rid of a window here. But yeah, I think Keith Wayne would come up or come down from New York. I forget what he was doing at the time. I think he was a singer or something at the time. Uh, he was doing something, musician or something like that. He's no longer with us, unfortunately. I think late '90s, I believe, is when he passed. He was on the commentary track. I think it's the same commentary track. It's on the this Criterion version as well. The big group track that they do. I might have to grab my charger here in a minute. No, I'm not sitting at my desk tonight trying to watch this 4K. So I wanted to watch it on the big screen, but yeah, I may have to grab my charger here in a minute. Well, we'll see how long it holds out. What did I grab? Yingling Black and Tan. I was reaching for an Iron City, but grab that instead. I'd be way more comfortable up top with Ben. Hey, I mean that's the the big debate. Night of the Living Dead. Downstairs, board it up, wait it out. Up top, fight it out. I don't know. Ben, of course, had nothing to fucking lose, really. I mean, you look at it that way. I mean, Tom had Judy to worry about. And of course, Harry and the Coopers having their daughter to worry about. So Ben was just kind of trapped there with a bunch of fucking crazy people. Basically, is what happened. He thought he had found a safe spot, but turns out that everybody there is losing their goddamn mind, and nobody wants to work together. And yeah, it's just a big mess. Susie says, "I thought he was Robin when I first saw him." That's funny. That's a good. He does look like, even the way he acts, like his constant blinking, and he does kind of come off as kind of a Robin boy wonder type. Now, Judith Ridley, after There's Always Vanilla, I know Judith didn't do too much acting after that. I think she kind of gave it up and moved on to the married life, raised some kids or whatnot. But she always had a very interesting look to me. Especially in There's Always Vanilla, I think she does a great job in that as well. It's her and Ray Lane's movie, and Ray Lane's another guy that I wish I could do more on and knew more about, had more to watch of him, honestly. Like I said, just watching Season of the Witch again earlier, his performance in that, I mean, he only did There's Always Vanilla and Season of the Witch, two movies that not a lot of people have seen. So not a lot of people know about Ray Lane, but I thought the guy is just a fantastic actor. But anyway, Matt Keith was in a band and would travel from South Carolina during the weekends. That's what I thought. I just remember George's like the way George remembered Keith showing up on set every day. I don't remember if it was in the One for the Fire documentary that Felcher did, or if it was in the Birth of the Living Dead documentary that came out not too long ago. But George, the way he'd be like, and then Keith Wayne would show up on the back of a convertible, just going, "Hey!" I just have this mental picture of Keith Wayne just riding up the road to this farmhouse in the back of some, Mustang convertible, just going, "Hey!" like he's Fonzie or something. I don't know. Susie but to zonk out. Have a good evening, everyone. Happy Father's Day to the Deadites. They were all wrong. Go to the attic. Yeah, I mean, hey, that's not a bad idea either. It worked out for Cooper in the Night remake, so yeah, that's not a bad one. But hey, I appreciate you hopping on tonight, Suze. It's good seeing you, or good hearing from you. I guess I'm not seeing you, but glad you could join. Uh, if you've never read the Joe Kane book about the making of Night, it's great. Lots of good info. I haven't. That's one I'll need to pick up. I think my next purchase, though, book wise, is going to be that Lee Carr's Creep Show 2, making the Creep Show 2 that just came out. Because man, I don't know if you've read the Making a Day of the Dead book that he put out years back. But I mean, it's like it's the Bible of Day of the Dead. Everything you wanted to know about the making and the history of Day of the Dead. I mean, there's, to me, there's no other Romero related book that kind of comes close. But yeah, I think that Creep Show 2 book's going to be really, really interesting. I saw Mike Gornick had it at his table at a Living Dead weekend, and thought about picking it up there, but I think you can get it on Amazon for like 20-25 bucks or something like that. But yeah, the Joe Kane book about making a night, I'll definitely have to pick that up too. Actually, I'll look that up here in a minute. So now they're trying to get to the gas. Set a motherfucker on fire. I think the story, I forget who the guy was that been set up on, they're set on fire there. But I think it literally just doused him with lighter fluid and just lit his jacket on fire and just said good luck. That's low budget, no budget guerrilla filmmaking. I'm gonna have to switch beers here. That black and tan's not doing it for me. Grab an iron. Oh no, Tom. So this is the scene that they actually shot, according to John Vulo on the Night of the Living Dead fan page on Facebook. This is the scene that they shot on this date 55 years ago. So it's pretty cool. Yes, love Lee's Making of Day. Took it with me to Fort Myers a few years back. Need to read the new one. Yeah. I don't know a whole lot about Creepshow 2, to be honest with you. That was one of those movies that always it's like a Romero adjacent film. Of course, it was directed by Mike Gornick, and Tom Savini's involved, and it's pretty much a Romero film. He just didn't direct it. I mean, I know Romero wrote part of it, but that was just one that I kind of came to later on. And oh, there goes Tom and Judy. Jacket was called. But yeah, that was kind of Creepshow 2 was kind of one that I always saw. Growing up, you see Creepshow directed by George Romero and Stephen King and all that. And then you see Creepshow 2 next to it, and it was just kind of like, I don't know if I want to watch that one or not. It may not be as good. But as the years have gone on, and I watched Creepshow 2 the first time, and I watched it more and more over the years. I really like Creepshow 2. I think The Raft is maybe the best story of any of the Creepshow stories, period. And that's saying something, but I just think it's said that story alone is so well done, and just the concept, it's so simple, but yeah, that's definitely a book that I'm looking forward to checking out, because I mean, Lee Carr, I mean, if he's one of the original Romero fanatics that kind of back in the 90s kind of made it his goal to discover all these shooting locations and find out everything there was to find out about every Romero film. And so yeah, that Day of the Dead making of book is and Fort Myers, that's definitely a place I need to make a trip to. I had the opportunity to actually take a job out there at one point, but while I would have loved to have lived in Fort Myers, I don't think I would have wanted to be that far away from friends and family and everybody else, especially with a newborn child. at the time. So Ben has made it back to the house. Harry Cooper is reluctantly helping, but he is helping. Now Ben's about to beat his ass. Now the question was always, was Harry Cooper thinking about, leaving Ben out there just because he hated Ben, or was he just more interested in saving his own ass and getting back down into the cellar? It's a debate we can all have. Oh, the original feeding scene. Now, these were like real guts. I think the pig intestines, I think they said that the pig intestines were just so flat and lifeless at the time. I think they filled them with like water or something to kind of boost them up. So when you see the guy, when you actually see it, when the guy's snatching the intestines here in just a second from the other zombie or whatever, right here, you can see the water spilling out there up there in the corner. Very juicy intestines. Now this had to have just freaked people the fuck out back in the day. Because I'm trying to think, like, what would be the most graphic gore that somebody would have seen in a film back then? Maybe like Herschel Gordon Lewis or something like that underground, but on a mainstream American level, I don't know, man. We haven't found a ton of City of Living Dead locations too. Yeah. Lee is really cool. I actually have I actually got him to sign my Making of Day of the Dead book, along with a bunch of other signatures. Everybody else involved that I've met so far. Didn't get George, unfortunately, but I actually just saw him. He was just walking around Living Dead weekend. It was actually the year that they had the Day of the Dead reunion in 2021. He was just kind of walking around, and I grabbed him and asked if he would sign. He's like, sure. So this is always the debate. People, there's always just the assumption that the bite is what turns people into zombies, when actually all you have to do is die. You don't have to be bitten. I think the bite, just the infection from the bite, just makes you turn a little faster, kills you faster. Well, all hell's breaking loose outside. Quick, turn on the TV. What do we do now? This had to traumatize people back in the day. I remember who was the I want to say it was Roger Ebert did a review of Night of the Living Dead back in the day, where it was on a double bill with like, some monster movie or something. And of course, matinees back in the day, I guess you'd take your kids, drop them off, they go see a monster movie, and then you got 3 or 4 hours with no kids. And it was like a double bill of like the what was the movie? The Beast from 1,000 Fathoms or something like that. It was a double bill with that and Night of the Living Dead. And all the kids were watching the first one. They're like, yeah, it's, they're all having fun, running up and down the aisles. But in Ebert's review, he was like, once Night of the Living Dead started, it's kind of like, okay, and the kids are just having fun still. But by the time that the truck blows up and the zombies start feeding, it was silent. The kids just stopped. Everybody was either sitting in their chairs, hiding their eyes, not looking at the screen, crying, whatever. It was like the kids were just like there, and they were not prepared for what was going on here. But I always just love that. I think it was in Reader's Digest or something like that at the time that Roger Ebert did that review. And of course, here's George Costanza. I was able to meet him in 2008. Really cool guy. Still had the hat and cigars. And actually, I think it was on Etsy or something not long ago. Somebody was trying to sell George Costanza's welding mask or something from, I don't know. But it did say George Costanza from Night of the Living Dead welding mask. So I don't know if it was a job that he was doing. He was a welder at the time. I don't know. But somebody was trying to sell it for a couple $100 or whatever they would get out of it. Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up. Something about that just seems like it seems improv, but it works. It's and that's how people like that talk. And I say people like that, and I'm, down home country folk. Evans City folk. So now we're about to head to the final. Oh, yep. Power goes out. Heading towards the climax. Isn't the fuse? Now, of course, if you're familiar with George's commercial work with the Latent Image, of course, the Calgon commercial, Carl Hardman, who plays Harry Cooper, does the Calgon guy, the scientist. Any opportunity I could show this off, I just love this drawing for some reason. It's just cracks me up. I love it. But yeah, that's where he kind of made his acting debut. But mostly, I think he just worked kind of in the sound department. Did a lot of different stuff. Like I know that I think he and Marilyn were in charge of the actual soundtrack, because a lot of this is just library music. I think the whole soundtrack to Night of the Living Dead was just public domain library music. A lot of which that they had in their studio. I think there's actually a special feature on this disc, or maybe it was the one for the 40th anniversary release that came out. Oh, there's a feature on it somewhere. One of these releases where Carl and Marilyn are actually sitting down playing the tracks and talking about, talking about the actual score. So now the invasion is beginning. What will Harry do? Will he go for the gun? Will he help Ben? Will he shoot Ben? Will Barbara get up off the fucking couch? Find out all this and more on the next episode of Night of Anubis. I'm glad they didn't go with that title. Night of Anubis. Romero even said it himself. It was kind of a snooty title. Of course, Anubis was the god of the dead or something like that in mythology. Ben shoots Harry. Now, some might say that Carl Hardman's acting here is a little over the top. Maybe a little. But who's to say that that's not how you would respond to being shot in the gut? I'd probably do the same thing, just stiffen up. But I think the charming thing about Cooper's character here is that he dies reaching for his daughter, which tells you everything you need to know about why Harry Cooper was a good father and a good man, kind of a pain in the ass. His methods may not be the most diplomatic, but at the end of the day, he was just trying to do what was best for his daughter. And that's a good father, folks. Harry Cooper was a good father. Good man. Asshole, but a good man. Oh. And now Karen has turned and she's going after Mama. The title sucks. Not a fan of Flesh. Yeah, I think, and I mentioned this earlier, I think I'm going to do a video on alternate Romero titles over the years, because there were a lot between Night of the Living Dead through Night Riders. There were a ton of different titles there. But yeah, I think they really got lucky and struck gold, even if it did lead to them losing the copyright. Night of the Living Dead, there's just something, just the term living dead was such an interesting play on words. Living dead. It's like, I think Night of the Flesh Eaters just makes it sound like, schlocky trash horror. And then Night of Anubis, nobody knows what the hell that even means. So I think I'm not even sure who came up with the title Night of the Living Dead. It may have been George. It may have been, I'm not sure who actually came up with that final title, but I think that's just the intrigue of just the idea, because zombies, living dead, walking dead, none of that was a thing in 1968. So I think just the title alone probably piqued a lot of people's interest. And Johnny came back for his sister. Oh, Johnny. Cooper was more redeemable in the original. Total douche. Yeah, in the remake, he was an over the top fucking asshole, and that's why by the end, when Barbara just caps him in the head, that's a pretty satisfying ending. Titanic discussions. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Finally, been going on for about 2 hours now. Wrapping this up. The end of Night of the Living Dead here. Ben is boarding up the basement. So that's the funny thing about this too, is like Ben, the whole movie's going on about how going down in the basement is not the preferable way to go about it. And then at the end of the movie, when all else has failed, that's where he goes, and that's where he ends up being safe. That's where he ends up surviving. But yeah, Harry was the true hero. True hero, that should say. Yeah, true hero. I agree. Yeah, I said it's in the description of this. Harry was right. Cooper was right. He was an asshole, but he was right. I think Anubis is the god of death. Might be wrong. Yeah, it's like the Egyptian god of funeral rites. Yeah, I knew it was something like that, but it was just one of those things. It's like people in the Midwest, somebody in Oklahoma or something, they're going to be, what is that? What is Anubis? They're not going to go see that. But Living Dead, that's interesting. What does that even mean? How can you be living and dead at the same time? I'm going to go see that. Yeah, they're all coming back. Harry's back. And Ben unloads. Ben's hatred towards Cooper. It's interesting. I wonder, there's a disagreement about, how to go about things, but I'll be right back. I gotta plug my computer in. Hang on a second. I know I'm plugging it in. Whoa. Shit, I don't know where to plug it in at. I found a power strip. Hang on. Will it last? Oh no! Alright, well, computer's plugged in. No, hang on. Oh, this is a disaster. Well, I got the computer plugged in, so it's not going to die on me. But the movie just died. But I killed power to pretty much everything. So I guess that'll pretty much wrap it up. This is what I get for trying to change my surroundings, moving away from the computer desk, trying to watch along on the big screen, but anyway, that's Night of the Living Dead. Get out of there. Well, that sucks. The ending to Night of the Living Dead, though, I feel really holds up. I actually went to watch Night of the Living Dead. It was one of those riff tracks or whatever they call it. They played in a theater around Halloween. This is probably 12, 13 years ago. And of course, riff tracks, or what, if you're not familiar, they play the movie and they have these comedians and they riff over it, But they were playing Night of the Living Dead at a theater near me, so I went to see it. And as the movie's, going on, they're making jokes and this and that, and people in the crowd, there was a pretty good sized audience. Like I said, it was around Halloween time. And everybody was having a pretty good time with it, laughing, But the beautiful thing about the ending of Night of the Living Dead is that it still holds up and it's still effective, even to the point where even during this screening with these comedians making jokes and whatnot, when Ben gets shot, when that happens in the film, there were still people, even with all the comedy and jokes going on, still people in the theater who went, ah! And we're just like shocked that just happened. These are people that obviously had never seen Night of the Living Dead before. I specifically remember the people sitting next to me the whole time, just having fun, laughing, But when Ben gets shot at the end of the movie, they were like, oh my God, they shot him. And they're, when they're hooking, sticking the hooks in, dragging them to the big bonfire. People, it was still shocking to people, even with, all the goofiness going on around it. That ending is just so perfect. Because, the debate about the ending is always, oh, did they shoot him because he was black? Or did they think he was a zombie? Or, and, we'll never know. But I just think that was just the perfect ending to that film. And, literally everybody in the movie dies. The hero does not survive at the end, which is not a common thing at the time. So I don't know. It still works. I think the still photos at the end of the film where they're dragging his body and they lay him right next to the cemetery ghoul, so it literally wraps it up, brings it all full circle. And then they light the fire, and then that's the end of the film. It's rough. Yeah, it's definitely still effective. Definitely still effective to this day. Just finished the Martin 4K before hopping on Let the Taste Blood. Yeah, man, that documentary. If you haven't picked up the Martin 4K from Second Sight, highly recommend doing so. Like I said, the transfer is what it is. I mean, it's a pretty old movie shot on a really shitty film stock. Um, but it sounds fantastic. That's the thing that stood out to me. The actual sound. If you have a good sound system to watch it on, you'll definitely hear the difference that the 4K makes. But that documentary, though, The Taste of Blood, that documentary, it's like a full length documentary, and man, it's everything that I've been wanting in a Martin making of documentary for years and years and years. Because we always had that one. I think it's a recounting the making of Martin. I think it was originally put together for the Lionsgate release back in the day, but it's available on the new 4K from Second Sight as well. But it was like 10, 15 minutes, not very bare bones. But this actual documentary is really, really good, and like I said, it's what 75, 80 minutes long. The ending's still effective. Seeing the still shots, the meat hooks is still disturbing. Yeah, and when you think about it, it's like this is the hero of the film. Whether you agree on whether he was right in the end or not, he was still the most noble character, the strongest character, the most down. The one that still had the still had his bearings about him. He was still with it. He's the guy you cheered for the whole movie. You wanted him to succeed. And at the end, you think he succeeds, and then no, he doesn't. He makes the wrong move. He gets taken out, and then just the meat hooks, and you see like to see the main hero character in the film being treated like just a dead piece of flesh, like they're treating the zombies. It's a bummer. It's a bum ending. We were talking about the original ending to Dawn of the Dead earlier, and how much of a bummer ending that was. Yeah, George just loved fucking bummer endings, man. Back in the 60s and 70s, all of fucking George's films were just bummer endings. Martin gets fucking stake in the heart, down, bummer ending. The Crazies, I mean, God, that whole movie is just a fucking down ending. There's literally no way out of that one. Everybody just pretty much everybody's fucked in that movie. They even find the cure for it. Richard Francis' character in The Crazies finds the cure, and then they think he's crazy, and then he fucking ends up getting killed. It's. But George lightened up at the end. Even when he didn't want to, he was made to. Like the ending of Monkey Shines, where they made him. Where Jason Beg, what's his name, Begay or whatever. Jason Begay's character. They make it to where he can actually walk again at the end, and it's just like no. But man, back in the fucking renegade guerrilla indie filmmaker George Romero 60s and 70s days, I mean, he was like, fuck it, everybody dies. That's the only way to end this movie. Everybody dies. Even There's Always Vanilla. It's kind of a fucking sad, bland, like heartbreaking ending. There's nothing common about Night. Totally groundbreaking. 100% Matt. And I think it's a good comment to end it on tonight. I appreciate everybody coming in, checking it out. Yeah. George is like, fucking kill everybody. Yeah. I mean, that's. And then I think when they changed the ending, I mean, hell, even Knight Riders, they fucking kill Ed Harris in the end. George, and I think George has spoken on that in the past, where he's talked about like he just didn't know how to end these movies any differently. It's just like, well, we got to kill everybody, fuck it. But I think Day of the Dead's kind of a happy ending, where they end up on the beach and they're fishing and the song is playing and everything's fine, but not really. I don't know. But yeah, those early days, George just said, fuck it, everybody's going. That's how we're ending this movie. Everybody dies. So, but yeah, I appreciate everybody checking it out. If you haven't, I rarely say this, but if you haven't yet, give me a like, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, just hit 100 subscribers. Going to do a 100 subscribers celebratory fucking video or whatever. But I mean, I don't really know what I'm going to do. But I appreciate everybody. Check this out. Like I said, my original idea when I started doing this channel was really just because I didn't really have an outlet to talk about this kind of stuff. Like my fiance, like she's supportive, and she may have been watching tonight. I'm not sure, but she doesn't give a shit. Yeah, I get something, from eBay or I watch a film. I remember when the amusement park came out, I got to watch it the first time, and I was trying to explain to her like how fucking great this movie is, and oh man, it's a long lost Romero film we never got to see, and blah blah. And she was just like, oh, okay, well that's cool. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like it. But my whole intention of just starting this channel to begin with was just and doing these streams and stuff is just to kind of connect and talk about this kind of stuff. Have an outlet, a creative outlet, even. And I was thinking, maybe I'll hit, maybe I'll get like 100 subscribers or something after the first year. Because I mean, yeah, this is a very niche thing. I really try to just stick to Romero related stuff because while I am a fan of horror in general and film in general and all kinds of different shit, Romero is just kind of the stuff that I feel like is my my real forte, where I spend a lot of my brain power and resources on. So yeah, hitting 100 within what 4 or 5 months since the first time I really started sticking to the channel. It's pretty crazy, and I appreciate everybody checking it out. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's pretty crazy, but I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. William, first time seeing you in here. Good to see you tonight, man. I love the Wampa Mine reference. Yeah, oh, down here at the bottom. Yeah. Yeah, this is part of my creative outlet. Is doing all these, the graphics and the videos and stuff building up. I've always needed some kind of creative outlet, whether it was music or films or whatnot. But so this, and actually going through doing this little scroll down here at the bottom took me a while because I had to literally just watch the scenes from Night of the Living Dead where they showed every one of the rescue stations and type it in, hit play. Oh, there's another one. Pause, type it in. But it's a labor of love. I love doing this stuff. I like, just chatting with you guys and just bullshitting, watching the movies and having a good time with it. Titanic, like the zombie invasion itself, this channel will engulf the world someday. Far more than 100 subscribers. 100,000 maybe. Maybe. That would be awesome, but hey, if I have 100 subscribers and all 100 of them are passionate, knowledgeable about film and Romero and just love to get on here and chop it up about that kind of stuff, then I'm a happy guy. I don't intend to ever, make a dime doing this. I'll never ask for a dime to do this. It's literally just a passion hobby of mine. Something I love doing. And it's really 99.9% just to connect with other Romero fans and just have an outlet to just talk about this shit, because like I said, you can't go to work. Like I'm not going to go to work tomorrow morning and be like, "Hey guys, did you see that they're doing a Night of the Living Dead 4K coming out and Felcher's working on it." They're going to look at me like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Are you having a seizure? Are you okay? Are you having a series of small strokes here, bud? You're saying words that I don't understand." But on here, I can just fucking blather on like I am now about all this shit, and people are like, "Hell yeah, that's awesome." So yeah, I appreciate it. Titanic discussions. Hey, if you ever want to talk about Titanic, I'm a big Titanic fan as well. The movie and the the history of the boat. I was obsessed with the fucking Titanic when I was a kid. But yeah, so I appreciate it, everybody. It's late. I've been on here for going on damn near 2 hours and 15 minutes now, so got to get back to work in the morning. But I appreciate everybody checking it out tonight. I don't know what I'll be doing next. I got some video ideas, a couple other stream ideas coming up, but yeah, I appreciate you guys checking it out. Have a great rest of the week. Well, I guess rest of the week. We're going to be starting a new week starting tomorrow. So have a great week coming up, folks. And until next time I see you, stay scared.